So I wanted to walk you guys through on how you can make your own ArcGIS map. So the first thing is you're going to go to arcgis.com and it's going to take you to the sign in page. So you're going to sign in and you want to make sure you're on your ArcGIS organization's URL. And here you'll just type in JLL and hit continue. And then you'll log in with your normal JLL credentials. So type in password. And then it'll bring you to this JLL Maps ArcGIS homepage. So on here, essentially, what you need to worry about is the menu bar up here. It's these 6 dots, and you'll go down to Vector Tile Style Editor. So this is where you can make your own map. This will show you kind of all the maps that already exist in the library. And I think it's organized by when it was last edited. So some of my maps that I've worked on are on this page. You can also just click on Owned by Me and it'll show you all your current maps. So for creating a new one, you'll go up here where it says New Style. And this is basically kind of a base map that you will build and adapt your custom map to. So there's a lot of stuff in here. I would just suggest going to World Navigation Map. It's got all the roads, the buildings, the highway signs. So that one's usually the easiest to use. So a little bit about what the interface looks like. So you've got a toolbar on the left, which is, a normal toolbar. You can expand it or collapse it. Right over here will be the panel for the toolbar. And then on the right side, you've got your window screens. So this is actually really nice because it gives you 4 different viewing aspects. So you can see how your text, your colors, your roads all look at different zoom levels. So I'm going to use Houston as an example because that's where we are. And this is kind of our generic zoom level that we'll have a lot of our maps be at. So I usually like to have this large window be zoom level 9, just so I can see all the roads and the suburbs. Then let's go to this one. I don't know why they all are all in not US, but we'll keep this one to, we'll keep this one to United States. You can also hit the little search bar here and search for whatever city. This one, I will keep it a little more zoomed in for general area. And then this one, you can zoom it in as much to the buildings as well, because there's also an option to change the colors of buildings. So we'll do that as well, so you can see what those colors look like. So a little rundown of what all your tools are. So the first one here is a quick edit. This is basically your overarching color schemes for the whole map. So it's a quick way to change all those colors, and already you'll see your map change according to that. So I have some of those colors changed that I'll drop in. That's your land color. You've got water, and this obviously you can customize it to whatever colors you want for your map. You have the roads, boundaries. Boundaries would be, your state boundaries, your county boundaries, buildings, and then nature. So already you can see that the map looks very different from what we started off with. You can also do a color theme where you can select one color and then it'll populate other colors for you, like a map for you. So then the next one over here is recolor icons. These are basically the highway shields, and if you turn that on, it'll basically color your shields to match the tint of your map. I suggest not turning this on because from my experience, once I turn it on, I can't go back. And I'd rather upload my own custom shields, which I will show you guys how you can do a little bit later. And then you can mess with label colors, you can mess with the contrast, but I like to do these in the actual layers themselves. We want English. And then for fonts, they don't have source sans or anything, so I just stick with Arial. And then again, labels and roads, you can adjust within all the layers themselves. So I'm going to show you guys how now you can go into each individual layer and update those. So here you honestly have a lot of options. There's a lot you can do, and it can definitely get very nitty-gritty. So you have two options on how you can edit it. You can go through each drop down and go through each thing one by one, or sometimes what I find easier is you can actually click on the map itself and it'll take you to that layer directly. So as I'm hovering on different pieces of the map, you can see on the bottom left of the window, it'll show you what the layer is. So it'll take you directly to that. So if I want to change the color of the land, I click on it and it gives me all the options. I can turn off the visibility, which basically now I just see the water, or you can turn it on. So that's an easy way to customize things instead of going through all of these, which can be a little tedious. So you can click through, you can turn off visibility, you can turn on visibility for certain things that you don't need. And that kind of brings me to the next point. There are certain things on here that I personally don't think we need in our use case here when working for certain deals. So when you go to land use, there's indigenous, zoo, military, port, transportation. Like we don't need labels and fill colors for all these individual little pieces. So what I will do is I'll click on one of them. And right here, so this is the fill and this is a text label. I'll just go in here and I'll turn off the visibility immediately. So I'll go to zoo. We don't need to showcase all the zoos. And this will kind of depend on what you want to show as well or not. So I will go in and I'll turn these off just so that they're not there. Golf course will keep just because it's usually a larger piece of land. And then park or farming, if you can see on this bottom middle window right here, we have Memorial Park. If I turn it off, it basically takes it away. So that is a big park that's in Houston that we would want to show. So we want to make sure we keep that on. Now, the other things are there are all these little icons. So for Houston, you see this little dot symbol. For Bel Air, you see this little dot symbol. I personally don't think we need them. So when you click on it, again, it'll take you to that exact layer. And right here, it says icon appearance. So what you can do is you can click on this image and just hit none, and it'll take it away. You can click on this one. And the other thing is, like I said, it can be a little tedious up front, but you're doing a lot of this heavy lifting in the beginning. And in the long run, it honestly, it can take you anywhere from even just 5 minutes to make a map, depending on what you're doing. So you do need to go through a lot of these layers are individually broken out. Like Cinco Ranch is considered a town large other capital, but Pecan Grove is considered a town large non-capital. They're both in separate layers. So any edits I make to Cinco Ranch layer will not be reflected in this layer. So you do have to make those edits individually to each of those. So another thing now that's a little quirky about these maps is that I've learned from my experience is that for some reason these highways and all the roads in the highways tend to have a double layer. So I'm not entirely sure why, but if you look in the layers panel right here, there's Freeway Motorway 0 and there's Freeway Motorway 1. And if you recall in the quick edit, I had made all the roads white. So I'm not sure entirely what this gray one is and why there's a duplicate version of it. So this is another one where I do go in individually and manually turn off anything that has a /1. I'm not sure why it makes a duplicate, but it also makes it tedious once you do bring your map into Illustrator. And if you are trying to make a more custom map to where you're making the background different or you're making the roads thinner or thicker, then there'll be this duplicate in the background that's all not adjusting accordingly. So that'll just add more work. So I think just turning them on, and that's for the highways, for roads, for minor roads, local roads, I would just turn off all the ones that have a /1. And then that's also very similar when it comes to text. Anything that's a text will have a halo color. If you look right here, it's a halo color of white. And the thing, it's essentially like a stroke, but the only issue we found is that when you bring that into Illustrator, it basically creates a vector stroke of the text that's behind the text. So if you make any changes to the text, make it larger, make it smaller, make it a different font, the halo stays as is since it's a vector. So to prevent that from coming through, you basically select the whole thing and just hit delete. And as you can see, it's a no color, it's transparent. So now when it comes through, there's nothing behind it. So that's, again, another thing you'll have to go through. Every single thing that's a text, you'll have to go through and go in and delete it. And like I said, you are doing a lot of this up front, but once it's made, it's a huge time saver. So That's another thing to keep in mind that you need to go in and remove. And then lastly, I wanted to show you how you can upload your own highway shields. So once you can, again, I find it easiest to click in the viewing map on to go to that exact layer. So I clicked on this Highway 45 sign right here, and it took me to the shield right here. The other reason I suggest that is if you look at the layers on the left, there are a lot of shields. And I think part of it has to do with maybe there's shields from London or, a different country that are also uploaded into here. So for us, it's not relevant. So whenever I'm updating these, I just look at the ones that I can see in Houston that would be relevant, and I would edit those. So we're going to click on one of them. And now before you can edit it, you actually have to save your style. So I'll come back to uploading it once I show you how you can save your style. And so right here, pretty self-explanatory, you're going to hit save as. And you can call this, I'll just call it ArcGIS training. You can name it whatever you want. You want to also name it something a little unique so that people in your team can find it. And you don't have to worry about the tags. You can put it in a folder. I have a folder called JLL Custom Maps. You can put it in a folder or not. And then over here, this is where you want to make sure you share with my organization. This is how someone like Miriam or anyone else on my team can access the map that's been created and not just myself. So I'll click my organization and hit save style. And the cool thing about this is that the moment I hit save style, if Miriam was to go into Illustrator and the ArcGIS extension and pull up the layer, she would see it immediately. So there's no lag. So now that that's saved, it does zoom us back out. So I'm going to go back into Houston so I can show you guys how to customize the shield. So I'm going to click on one again. And now when you look at it, there's this button that wasn't here earlier. So now we're able to edit that icon. So you're going to click on that and it'll take you to this window where all your icons are. So essentially for each icon, they already have 7 different versions saved out of that icon. And I think it's dependent on if it's a 2-digit highway or a 3-digit highway. So if it's a 3-digit highway or a highway with a number after it, it stretches out the icon. So I personally feel like having an icon that's a standard size that fits all numbers is more aesthetically pleasing. That could be up to your preference. If you want to create a stretched out icon or a skinnier icon, that's totally up to you. And I've found that the one thing about icons is that you can only upload a PNG. You can't upload vectors. So sometimes when they are imported in Illustrator, they are a little pixelated. So a workaround to this is I create my Illustrator artboard to be 50 pixels by 50 pixels. I create my shield however I want it to look with whatever colors, and then I export it at 300 resolution. This way I can make sure even if the map is zoomed in or zoomed out, the resolution is at least not terrible. So we're going to replace these icons. I don't think we would ever have, at least in Houston, a use case of where the highway number is so large that it would be this stretched out. So normally I don't worry about uploading these last 3, but these 4, I will upload my PNG to all 3, and you'll see how they look in the window once it's done uploading. So you'll select a file, you can save it wherever, and this will show you you're replacing this icon, and this is what your new icon, it'll show you like a standard resolution and a high resolution. So you'll hit replace. And this takes a little bit of second, but I'm not sure why you can't upload vectors, but that's just what it is. So now when you look at it, they will be very giant because like I said, I made it 50 pixels by 50 pixels, which is much larger. If you look at the size right here, it's much larger than what their standard was. I just, again, for resolution purposes, I feel like it works better. So what you would have to do is you would upload that same shield to all of these variations because it's using different icons for different numbers. So just to cover all your bases, I would suggest uploading it to all of them. So now it's obviously giant. You need to make it smaller. So you're going to click on it again. Again, it'll take you back to that layer. And the other thing here that you have the capacity to do is set a size for different zoom levels. This is another way, like another place where you can go down a rabbit hole and you can spend hours, but you can basically at this zoom level, which is zoom level 8, I can set the shield to be a certain pixel size. And then when it's zoomed in, closer, I can set it to be a different size, and so on and so forth. I think it's easy to do that in Illustrator. You can do that with roads, you can do that with text. I think that's a lot easier to do once you've exported it into Illustrator, because then you can click on each individual layer and adjust it there. So for this purpose, I usually will click this little gear and do use a single value. And here I can set it to be whatever value I want it to be. So already you can see it's much smaller. You can make it whatever size you think fits best. So you can see right here we have 610, which is a 3-digit number. So you can adjust your shield to basically fit any size number that you have. So that would be one thing I would suggest doing, or you can just upload a smaller shield. And you have the zoom capacity in almost every single layer. So again, I would suggest just using single layers, single values, and setting it to be a default font, no matter how zoomed in or zoomed out you are. So that's essentially a lot of the quirks that using the ArcGIS Online has. And again, like I said, you can go through this, layer by layer. For roads, there's a 4-wheel drive. No one cares. Service roads, we don't need to show that. So there's a lot of stuff you would have to just kind of go in and play with on your own and mess with that, because you could definitely spend a lot of time adjusting it how you want. And so we'll have a write-up for this too, so they'll have steps that you can follow. So after you've created your map, I will suggest saving your map every now and then, so that in case I have had the web browser crash on me before, not often, but every now and then you can hit save. And since we already changed the privacy to say my organization, someone like Miriam would be able to find the map I just created and be able to apply it whenever, however so she needs to. And so one way is, if you, for some reason, only kept it to private, if you want to change it later on, you can go back to that main ArcGIS window that we were in, where it showed you, where we went to the tile editor. If you go here and you go to content, it'll show you all the maps you've created. So this is the one that I just created right here. And if you scroll all the way down, it'll show you this little circle and it'll show you sharing. So just in case you wanted to keep it private up until it's completely final, you can go into this page and change it from owner to organization. So essentially that is everything. Again, I highly recommend just going in there and playing with it yourself. There's a lot you can do with it, and I think it's been a huge benefit to my team and I. We can crank out maps so quickly now. So I would highly recommend everyone utilizes this. And then we also use this as a base map for any of our custom maps too, because everything is nice and clean, and then we can go in Illustrator and even change the colors even more and stuff if we want to.